Hi, my name is Ben Garcia, and my research topic was the effects of the pitch count that was implemented by the UIL in Texas high school baseball. The pitch count came into effect at the beginning of last season, and the UIL had to comply with the mandate of the National Federation of High Schools that basically said each state must have some sort of pitch count rule for the upcoming season. Now, the UIL, along with the Texas High School Baseball Coaches Association, uh, were in the works of implementing a pitch count system, but not until the 2018 season, which would be this season coming up in January. However, in October of 2016, the NFHS mandated that for that upcoming season, which was January 2017 to 2017 high school baseball season, that there had to be a pitch count system in line for that season coming up. So we're coming fresh off our first season of any type of pitch count system being implemented here in Texas. There's a pitch count chart that I put in the PowerPoint that breaks it down for you about how many pitches a pitcher can throw and how many days rest are required if they throw within that range of pitches. Now, I took a little bit of a deeper dive into how the pitch count affected culture, I guess you could say, here in Texas, because older guys like coaches, their mindset and their reality is that they played through pain, and their entire lives their entire coaching lives they've coached players to play through pain, and now you run into players who think a little bit more for themselves and say, hey, I'm not going to play through this pain because this could cause me long-term injury, and I might not be able to play in college. I might take that chance away from myself if I play through pain now in high school. Now, the chief principle of this pitch count system is to 100% promote proper arm care and to eliminate injuries of our student athletes. It is not a gamesmanship rule. It is not a rule to give one team an advantage over another team or to level the playing field. It's nothing like that. It's not, you don't have access to my pitcher's pitch counts and I don't have access to your pitcher's pitch counts. It is not a gamesmanship rule. It is not a strategic strategy to use. It's simply to protect our student athletes. That's all it is. In the research paper, I talked about some data from a team that we followed that was forced to use the pitch count last season, as all programs across the state were forced to use it. It was not an option. It was mandatory. Also, the physical condition of the athlete. Were they in great physical shape? Were they not? Did they eat right? Did they sleep well? All those things are discussed in the research paper. The type of weather that a pitcher will pitch in, whether it's hot or cold. When it's warm outside and it's upper 80s to 90s, even triple digits here in Texas come playoffs time in May and June. It's easy to get warm quick. Your body, your blood's flowing, opposed to being cold and it being, up in North Texas. I know it gets up into the 30s and the 40s at the beginning of the season, and your muscles are tight and it takes you a while to get the blood going. So talk about how you need to spend a little bit more time getting warmed up to prevent injuries in that situation. How many pitches, the pitcher has thrown and how often the pitcher is throwing that amount of pitches was also discussed in the research paper, because if you have your pitching staff throwing 20 to 30 pitches every other day with the proper arm care and the proper conditioning, the proper throwing program, your guys are going to be pretty healthy. You're not going to have any. You will have, I'm sure, some injury, but they'll be at a minimum. Now, compare that to pitching every single day, 20, 30 pitches with not the right throwing program, the wrong type of conditioning. and not going about things the right way, then of course you're going to run into more, more serious injuries. That's just a given. One doctor I heard speak, or I watched a video on. His name was Dr. J.P. Bramhall. He's a doctor who specializes in arm care and injury prevention, and he's also the baseball team doctor for Texas A&M University. He says the most common arm-related injury that comes from baseball is the diagnosis of medial elbow pain. The diagnosis goes from a very mild sprain injury to a more severe bone, ligament, and tendon damage. The most severe being soft tissue. In this category, the UCL tear falls in, which means you need, in order to repair and replace that ligament, you need Tommy John surgery, is what we know it as. He goes on to say that different diagnoses occur with similar injuries. Medial elbow stress usually comes from competitive throwing, which is also known as pitching. The overhand movement, throwing the ball from above your shoulder as opposed to softball going underhand, it's not a natural movement. So of course you're going to put strain and stress on your arm, shoulder, and elbow, the ligaments, the tendons, the muscles. That's why it's very important to know the proper arm care. And a lot of time, high school coaches get the blame for student athletes that move on to college that play baseball, because it's looked at as the high school coach not knowing how to properly take care of an arm, or not knowing the proper throwing program or conditioning that the student athlete needs to stay and remain healthy for the long term. So, high school coaches, again, they have to know that all falls back on not only the high school coach but also the student athlete, because the high school coach can always, he can tell you so much. Hey, you need to take care of your arm, you need to rest, you need to go home, eat right, do these weights, you need to run tomorrow, you need to do this, you need to do that. And if the student athlete goes home and that all goes out in one ear, out the other, and doesn't do anything that he's told, then, that kind of falls on both of them, because the student athlete, as a student athlete, takes on the role of responsibility. And especially if they want to go play at the next level, being responsible is key. You have to take care of yourself. And that also falls back on the coach, because the coach needs to make sure that he is taking care of his players, having them healthy, not only while they're in his program, but for long term. Again, we looked at some data from a team we followed. That's mentioned there in the research paper, along with some other ways to properly take care of your arm and also improperly take care of your arm, elbow, and proper arm care, non-proper arm care. It's also discussed in there how Dr. Bramhall talks about the injuries that he's seen. And that's all I have. Thank you for watching.